Well, it was January 24th this year when Megan and Sean Mitchell arrived back on P.E.I. with their new 4-year-old daughter, Audrey Marina. The family chose to adopt from Ukraine after hearing about the crowded orphanages there. No one else on P.E.I. was adopting from Ukraine at the time. And the country has strict rules that don't allow potential parents any information until they are on Ukrainian soil. Nancy Russell has this story called Bringing Audrey Marina Home. Today, in Part 1, we hear about the Mitchells' trip to Ukraine and their first meeting with Audrey Marina.
You go sleep there?
Yes.
Where's your bed?
4-year-old Audrey Marina counts the beds in this photo of the orphanage in Ukraine. But she seems to have forgotten which one used to be hers.
Where's your bed? Where's Marina's bed?
Adrina.
Yes.
Nearby are her new sisters, 12-year-old Madeline and 8-year-old Lila. They're giggling at the photo of Audrey Marina in her pajamas. They can laugh now, but the Mitchells say those 6 weeks in Ukraine were hard on everyone. The girls back home and Megan and Sean in Kiev. Unlike other international adoptions, the Mitchells did not have a photo or any information on the child they were about to meet. That part of the adoption process doesn't start until potential parents arrive in Ukraine.
We can't receive any information about the children from Ukraine because of their child laws. It is not allowed to send information outside of the country, so we don't know anything about any of the children until we get there, and then the process starts. All the paperwork, translating, visiting.
And then we probably sat shaking for 20 minutes or so before our file was presented to us. And with depending on the day that you go, there could be many child files available. And it is a selection process. And you go through with the psychologist, with your facilitator, looking at the proposed files. For us, on that day, we were able to view only her file. She came from behind one of the caregivers, and she was dressed in a tiny little pink dress that was 3 sizes too small for her. And I got down on my knees, and as I wanted to see her face to face, and she came right over to me, Mama, Papa, like she had, obviously been coached to say so and to respond to us in that way. And the way she hugged me was a strange hug. She didn't know how to hug and how to receive affection. And then I touched her on the dress, and she slapped my hand away. And I thought, oh gosh. We're looking to each other like, are you feeling it? Are you feeling a connection here? And I can honestly say, and we both honestly can say that we were meeting a stranger. They're trying to sell you on her, right? They're oh, she's beautiful, she's so good, she's such a good girl, and she will be tall like model. We were like, oh, you don't need to sell her, right? Donna. What really got us was before the end of the interview with her, Marina asked the translator who was with us at the time, do they like me? It broke our hearts. And I said, of course. I said, tell her we like her very much.
I would cringe the days we would have to go to the orphanage. She was, jumping from chair to wall, and it'd be different in so many ways if the language barrier wasn't there. At least you could communicate with her.
And this was our last real visit at the orphanage.
When they weren't at the orphanage, Sean and Megan were kept busy traveling from one government office to another. Looking back, they admit they were also struggling with their own culture shock.
Sometimes offices in Ukraine just close, or the person didn't go to work that day, or they're out to a 4-hour lunch or whatever. So you just never quite know if everything's going to go exactly as it's supposed to go.
There were some days we had to go and sit in a small little car with no heat for 7 hours.
The rich are rich and the poor are poor.
They also learned more about Audrey Marina's past.
We know some. She was born to a mother who had 2 children previously. And our understanding is that she's an alcoholic And she doesn't have either of those two children in her care, and those children are in a foster home and not available for adoption. And our primary concern was not to separate any siblings.
Yeah.
The Mitchells do have the names of Audrey Marina's parents and siblings, and they will share those with her when she gets older, if she wishes. As they waited for the paperwork to be completed, they were also getting to know Audrey Marina.
You could really tell during those days that she had not been handled affectionately at all, probably ever. She would cringe when we would touch her back, and when we would snuggle, when we would try to bring her up on our lap even just to read a book, she wanted nothing to do with it. She'd hop down.
We learned very quickly that we had to hold her at all times. There was no even letting go of her. Either you hold her jacket or hold her hand or something. We come to find while we were there that children in orphanages will test you to see how true you are to the reason you're there.
The Mitchells originally thought the adoption would cost around $30,000 for translators, an adoption facilitator, and fees for various government agencies. They had to redo one part of their paperwork, and that and a couple of other extra expenses added another $10,000. There was a 10-day mandatory waiting period to make sure no one claimed Audrey Marina. Finally, after 6 weeks, they were heading home to P.E.I.
There are people, sadly, who come home from Ukraine with no children, and it happens. And they go back for another appointment, and either they weren't presented, files that would meet a match, or the children were very sick and they were led to believe that they weren't, or for whatever reason. It's 100,000 in orphanages, another 100,000 on the street. And the statistics for these kids are devastating. And so there's one right in there. And she won't live a life like that.
Mama.
Who's this?
4 Island Morning, I'm Nancy Russell in New Dominion.
Go, but.
Is she sleeping?
Our thanks to Nancy and to the Mitchells. Tomorrow in part 2 of Bringing Home Audrey Marina, we'll hear how the young Ukrainian girl is adapting to life on Prince Edward Island. As her new parents describe it, the honeymoon is over.